I'm Belinda Matore from the Center for Human Rights, University of Pretoria. I'm a project
Nice meeting
officer
you.
there, and I'm also doing my PhD with a research focus on child digital rights.
Okay.
Yes, if we can all just introduce ourselves so that we get to know each other before we start.
Sure. So I'm Valerie Uppiah. I'm a senior lecturer in law at the University of Mauritius, and I lecture on international trade and maritime law. I do some research on the digital aspects and legal framework of, for example, insurtech and also fintech. So I do research on this. So yes, it's a bit of my background, I would say. So it's mainly
Um,
business and human rights aspect. Yeah.
Bonjour Valerie, good
Bonjour.
morning Belinda. I'm Lassané Ouedraogo, PhD candidate here at the University of Pretoria. I'm also the coordinator of the LLM in International in Trade and Investment Law in Africa. I'm graduated with 2 LLM. The first was awarded in Burkina Faso, where my research was almost most focused on accountability of transnational corporations. And here at UP, I also earned an LLM in international trade and investment law in Africa. And currently, my PhD is based on environmental issues, particularly transnational corporations accountability regarding the climate system protections. That's in short my bio. Yeah.
Thank you, Lassané. Thank you, Valerie. So we'll start. First things first, we need to introduce what we are doing here so that our audience can have an understanding of why we're here, why we're gathered here. I will start with Lassané. And as we celebrate the International Day for Universal Access to Information under the theme Ensuring Access to Environmental Information in the Digital Age, we are having this podcast so that we elaborate on what this means, what it is to ensure access to environmental information in the digital age. So I'll start with you, Lassané, to explain what is environmental information so that we have an understanding from the onset what it is that we are discussing.
Belinda, thank you very much. Before I will start, I would like to say that environmental information is a key concept for not only environmental protection, but also for human rights protections. I will ask us to imagine like living next to a factory that pollutes the air because of its way of production that we are briefing, but we were never told that the factory is polluting the air and how dangerous that pollution is. My question is that will we feel safe or not? That's how environmental information is that important. Because at the end of the day, for you to know the dangerosity of what you are experiencing, what you are facing, is much more important to know about what you are dealing. And you cannot get there without a sound information on the matter. Environmental information is access to clear information about the environmental issues. It may be the air, the pollutions that we are experiencing. It's links to human rights issues because for you to defend your right to a clean and healthy environment, you must have the key informations that will lead you to take the further steps, either before a court or before any type of adjudicatory body. That in short, what I mean by access to environmental information.
Thank you so much to Valerie. Maybe if you can explain why access to environmental information is important for ordinary people in Africa, for instance, not just lawyers or policymakers, but the everyday community.
You know, the right to information, environmental information is important because it impacts all of our other rights. You need to know if you're having access to clean and proper water. This has a direct impact on your health. You need to know that the quality of the air that you are breathing, whether it will have adverse impact of your health. So having access to environmental information is crucial not only for our well-being, physical, mental well-being, but also for livelihood. So we know that several projects across the continent have had adverse impact on indigenous communities, on local people, local communities and villages. So having those information about how a particular project infrastructure is going to impact the immediate environment has a direct impact on the social and cultural lives of people. So it is crucial, therefore, to have environmental information for, as I've said, for our lives, but for the livelihood as well. Thank you.
Thank you. As a follow-up question, what happens then if this information is not available? If you can give an example, a real-life consequence of restricted access.
I think one case which comes to mind when you ask me that question is the case of Serac versus Nigeria, where actually a project was happening in the Niger Delta, which had an impact on the Ogoni people. So the main impact is that people don't know what to do. They see that suddenly their traditions are being, disturbed, their way of life is being disturbed. So the importance of having information is to actually, help people to organize themselves. So let me explain. If there is a particular project to be done, and this will have an impact on the environment and the surrounding community, so first thing that has to be done is an environmental impact assessment. This environmental impact assessment will actually help to understand how the project is going to disturb, as I've said, the ecosystem and the surrounding people living in it. So by doing an environmental impact assessment, then this will allow people to actually take the proper action, whether they need to review what they were doing, review their way of life, or try to find a compromise between the project and the community living nearby. So it is very important to have those information in order to help people to address any new infrastructure, any new development which is being made in the community.
Thank you for that clarity, Valerie. Lassané, whilst we are taking a look at the development that have been done so far within the African continent, can you explain from your perspective how well do the existing African legal frameworks such as the African Charter or the Declaration of Principles on Freedom of Expression and Access to Information in Africa, how much do they support the access to environmental information?
Thank you very much, Belinda, for that question. I think Africa seems to be well equipped when it's come to environmental protection issues. The first is the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which provide for the human right for a healthy environment for all the stakeholders. But the main issue may be the enforceability of this right. Some case may be the Lido versus Cote d'Ivoire case that was before the African Court on Human Rights, where a company, particularly a foreign company, Trafigura, pour waste in the sea in Cote d'Ivoire, and it led to the death of thousands of citizens in Abidjan. And it was through access to information of which company pour the waste through in that sea that's led to case laws not only in Africa but also before European courts. And finally, most importantly, the court found that states has obligations to protect its citizens from the adverse impact, being from its own actions or being from the action of those that are within its jurisdiction. And here it was the company that poured the waste in the sea in Cote d'Ivoire. That shows that even from the legal framework perspective and also from the jurisprudence from the African Court, that access to information in environmental matters seems to be protected in Africa.
Thank you so much. And to both of you, both can answer the same question. that what is the most frustrating barrier you have seen when it comes to accessing environmental information? Is it lack of internet or politics, culture, the culture of secrecy? What is it really that frustrates the community at large from accessing environmental information?
I may start first.
Yeah.
I think what may frustrate access to information may be a technical barrier, which means in like environmental impact assessment report, the report may be drafted in technical language, which is not accessible to all citizens that are not aware about environmental issues. Uh, Adding to that may be political divided, like for the access to information for citizens in town is much more better than access to information for citizens in rural areas. I think I just highlight these two issues, and I'm sure that Valerie will add more.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Lassané and Belinda. For me, I would say the most frustrating barrier would be, I would say, a misalignment of priorities. So if you look at the different cases which were brought, whether in national courts or regional courts, you would say that on the one hand, you'll have CSOs and NGOs working towards the protection of the environment. And on the other hand, you'll have the authorities of a country, proning for I would say, economic development. So environment is stuck in between. So for many CSOs and NGOs, environment is the priority, and protection of the rights of people, that's a priority. Whereas there is this misalignment of priorities, where CSOs and NGOs, for them, the high priority is environmental protection, and on the other hand, for the authorities of a state, it's the protection of information secrecy. So that's it. So this is where priorities really clash and leads to those having the information, in most cases the authorities of a state, not willing to share those information to protect the interest of their business stakeholders. So I think this is where access to information can be challenging.
Thank you so much. And to also elaborate, when we're speaking about access to information and the barriers and the challenges that you're talking about, does this have any effect on the community's health, safety, and livelihoods? Because I would love to believe that the real reason behind the transparency is because people are living with this, for instance, communities, and let's say, for instance, there's fiber that wants to come and be put in place, what it means to the community, that are they supposed to, lessons that they need to be taught, or information that needs to be given to them prior, so that they have an understanding of what it is that's happening within their communities. Like, how does it work for someone who does not have any school background, technical background on this, but they have a certain feeling that whatever that is being done within their community might not be good for their health, for instance.
Yes, so the first step in this is communication. Just imagine you are in a village, and suddenly hundreds of lorries are coming, things are changing, you don't know what is happening. So the first thing is, for any project to be done in any area, communication with the local people. So invite translators, if the let's say the local community doesn't understand English, those doing the project, and even, as I've said, the local authorities should communicate to the local people, telling them, if this project is happening, this would be the impact on your local community, and discuss with them to find solution to that. That's it. For me, the key really is to explain to the people what is happening, what is the project about, how are they, to some extent, going to benefit from the project in their locality, and to some extent, what are the challenges and consequences of that project with them. So first of all, explain to the people what is happening, and then what are, as we say, the strengths and weaknesses of a particular project for the local community, and then provide for solutions. For example, if unfortunately that's the last recourse, but if people have to be displaced to a better area, then probably displacement is an option. obviously with all conditions respected. But then, if not, then explain them what are the alternatives that can be used if ever any particular, I would say, area which they use to grow crops, which they use to for their livelihood, what alternative is provided. So for me, the key is communication, because communication, sharing information, it will just bring, chaos and misunderstanding.
Lassané, when ordinary citizens or CSOs struggle to access environmental information, where should they actually report the problem? Like, what are there existing channels?
I believe that normally they must bring the case before domestic jurisdiction, I would like to say. Prior to that, another alternative way is to approach first of all the stakeholders, first the community, and secondly the government. It will be like the ministry in charge of that project, or the ministry is in charge of that project, and additionally the company or the companies in involving in the project, in order to acquire information before these like entities. But in case it failed, another option will be like approaching the court or bringing the case before a court for lack of access to informations. I do believe that maybe the ways to handle such kind of case from a CSO or from the community as stakeholder perspectives.
So we have spoken about challenges. On the flip side, technology is almost always seen as a barrier, but we have an understanding that it can also be a solution. So what's the most exciting digital tool or platform that you have seen making environmental information easier to access?
If I may take this one, I'll take
Yeah.
the Mauritian actually example. The Ministry of Environment here in Mauritius has created an app. So the name of the app is Monatir in Mauritian Creole, which means my nature. And on this app, I've just noted down some of the main features on the app. So on the app, you can have access to, for example, information on air quality index, environmental information, so policies, plastic regulation, solid waste management, weather conditions, beach information, and public feedback. So actually this app, which can be downloaded by anyone, is, I would say, really revolutionary, because it allows people to understand how the environment here is the country is managed. But not only that, it has, as I've said, the public feedback, so a report mechanism. So if you see someone illegally dumping something, you can, on the app, it gives you access to a WhatsApp number, just send a message and this will inform the authorities. So from the Mauritian perspective, I say this is a really a very good development in terms of environment monitoring and management.
That's actually such a good one, and I think a lot of countries or young techs, they need to emulate that so that we have so many of such kind of technology. Does it only work in Mauritius or it's global?
Well, I think it's global. I actually downloaded the app very recently, but I can see that it works perfectly here. It gives you all the information. You just click on the let's say on the information that you need. For example, air quality. You'd have all the detail, plastic regulations. You'll have information about the list of single-use plastics, plastic carry bags, and it's quite insightful. So yes, it is something that can be considered by other states and be implemented.
So what role can local knowledge or traditions play in promoting openness and transparency instead of secrecy? Like, what can the community do at large so that we are all aware of what our responsibilities are when it comes to environmental information?
I believe that first of all the community must be interested to the project that maybe the state and the companies are initiating, but most importantly, stakeholders such as state and companies must take into account the free and fair information that they owe to the communities. That's maybe must be the first step in any project that they intend to implement. because without such kind of free and prior information to local community, the project may hinder the local communities, right? And also from the local community perspective, the for me, my advice may be like they must react in proactive way, in such that they must be ahead of the stakeholders such as companies or state, in order to gather all the information that the government may hide or may not want them to know about, through alternative means, because at the end of the day, it's about their best interest protections.
Thank you so much, Lassané. So if we are to meet, this is to the both of you, if we are to meet again in 5 years, what's the one positive change you hope to see in the African access environmental information, or how Africans access environmental information, sorry?
For me, if we have to have that conversation in 5 years later, I would like to see Africa having its own framework on environmental issues at regional level, which is lacking right now. And I believe that it's must be important for African as a region, not only to have a framework on environmental protection, but also to include climate change issues, and stakeholders such as companies having obligations within this framework will also enhance environmental protections in Africa and environmental justice in Africa.
Thank you. And over to you, Valerie.
Yes, and for me, I would say from a more technical perspective, probably have a database. And we are talking about digital Africa, digital age. So probably using blockchain technology really to, have a follow-up of all environmental information, have a follow-up of everything related to the environment be stored on the blockchain so that information is being accessed, is transparent, and we can see, for example, if we look at waste management, which is a big issue, dumping from other countries in various African states. So if we have, for example, we use technology such as blockchain really to trace waste management and see how it enters the system and what is being done with the waste, I think that would be a very good thing for many African states. Really use technology to manage waste, sorry, and control, monitor the environment.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Thank you so much, Lassané. So to our speakers, thank you for sharing your insights and your experiences with us today. In this conversation, we explored what access to environmental information really means, why it matters to the communities across Africa, and the frameworks that recognize this right at both international and continental levels. We've also tried to unpack the barriers from politics and secrecy to digital divides and lack of awareness. But importantly, we've heard about the opportunities too, from digital innovations to community-led initiatives, and there were examples that were given. So as we mark the International Day of International Access to Information, this podcast reminds us that Africa has the frameworks and the potential. What we need is the political will, the resources, and the commitment to make sure the environmental information flows openly, inclusively, and digitally to everyone who needs it. Thank you for joining us for this discussion on ensuring access to environmental information in digital Africa, barriers and recommendations. Until next time, goodbye and enjoy the rest of your day.